Okay, good evening, everyone. It is 6:30, and it is our Tuesday gathering, the online version of Yoga Samadhi, and this evening I'm on my own. Ajahn Karunadhammo is on his way to be going back to visit family in North Carolina. So he is staying in town and catching an early flight tomorrow morning, and he'll be away for he will be back by next Tuesday. And so this Tuesday, and then the Friday morning session, then I will be doing the duty, and Ajahn Karunadhammo will be on next week. So we'll begin our evening as usual with a meditation, taking the time just to sit quietly and to center the body. Just get settled into the body, center it, being kind of having a solid kind of relationship with the physical experience of just sitting here, breathing, and being here. And centering the mind, centering the heart, and keeping a sense of alertness, presence, balance. I just finished a Zoom session with our community in Berkeley. And of course, now that it's the first Tuesday, we've been going to first Tuesday in Berkeley like forever, and so it's turned into a Zoom session, and which we just finished. And one of the things that I thought of or remembered, recollected, was a teaching that the Buddha gives, and they're usually it's translated as biases, but the literal translation is leaning. The connotation is that of leaning. So that the leanings of the mind, excuse me, so that rather than being centered, the mind leans. It leans with desire, leans with aversion, leans with delusion, leans with fear. And it's out of balance. It's off its center. And so just to be attentive and alert to, is the mind leaning? Is it being influenced with a particular bias of mood that keeps it off its center, off its solid foundation? Because that's certainly what they say, mindfulness, clear comprehension. Our establishing of settledness of mind is to be able to um, have this quality of solidity, stability. And in order for things to be stable, one has to recognize where it's not stable, where it's leaning, where it's where it's falling down, and just to patiently bring it back to the body, bring it back to the breath, bring it back to mindfulness and clear comprehension. Just breathing in, just staying with the knowing, breathing out, just being with the knowing. Say it's something that we're so familiar with, but it's easy to um, do it in a kind of a rote manner, and that is just out of habit or not really reflecting clearly, and that is this uh, leaning from with delusion, and, and the opportunity of just being here in this present moment, alert, attentive, the awakened knowing is accessible, possible. And it's in those simple moments of just coming back to the body, coming back to the breath, coming back to the mind in this moment. And it's say, moment by moment, present moment awareness. That is the foundation. So just to take the time to return to that foundation and to build on it. And you're breathing in, to being with the knowing. Breathing out, being with the knowing. So we'll experiment with that, work with that for another 20 minutes or so. Okay, so to continue the evening with a bit of a reflection. The kind of perspective or reflection that I just gave on the leanings of the mind. I think one of the things is to recognize that this is, of course, we can be attentive to this or paying attention to this during our meditation, but also during our daily life. It's the same leanings of the mind, moods of the mind that pull us off center as we go about our daily life, and to be alert to those habits, tendencies, ways that we trick ourselves, entangle ourselves in that which creates complications and difficulties for ourselves. Another teaching that is commonly given concerning meditation, but has, say, just as much relevance in our daily life is a teaching on the Buddha gave on the 4 bases of, usually bases of power, bases of success, and of course, yes, it's whether it's successful in our meditation applications of mindfulness, or whether it's our our day-to-day life, having these tools and skills that we cultivate and develop. This past Sunday, I think, there was somebody here came for the meal offering, and we were talking about cultivation and practice, and that that cultivation, the practice required a certain element of desire and in that, but in the conversation, it was also, well, isn't the Buddhist teachings all about giving up desire, not having any desire, and how does that reconcile? And I gave a simile that came from the suttas, and then tried to remember what sutta it was, and fumbled around and never did find it. The person left sometime later. But anyway, I tracked it down, and I thought I would share it this evening. The sutta is from the Samyutta Nikaya, the collections of that are according to groups, themes, and Samyutta 21, sutta number, not 21, 51. Samyutta 51, sutta number 15. It's the collection on the iddhipadas, these bases of power. And the sutta begins with Ananda, and it's a sutta by Ananda. Ananda is in Kosita's Park, which is near Kosambi, say in that Ganges Valley area of India, and a Brahman comes to see, visit, pay respects to Venerable Ananda, and asks him, what is the purpose of the teaching of the Samana Gautama, the ascetic Gautama, the Buddha? Is there a purpose to the Buddha's teachings? Yeah. And Ananda says, yes, there is a purpose. The purpose is the the abandoning of desire. And then the Brahman, Unaba, says, well, is there a way? Is there a path to the abandoning of desire? And then Ananda said, yes, there is a path, and it's based on these qualities, these bases, possessed of concentration that is rooted in or founded and grounded in, based in this base of power that has desire, or based in desire and effort, energy, and it's also relies on and possessed of concentration that is based in let's say the base of power of energy, and that has is also say supported by effort, and it's concentration based on the aspect of mind, or application of mind, and the aspect of effort, energy as well. And it is, say, concentration that is rooted in, based in this base of power of investigation, along with energy or effort. And so that Ananda gives him these four bases of power, the iddhipadas, chanda, virya, citta, vimamsa, desire, energy, effort, mind, application of mind, and investigation. And the Brahman says, well, if that's the case, then this is interminable. There's no end to this. How can you have a path that has to say its purpose is abandoning of desire, and then your practice is based on desire? How is there a possible end to this? So he says, this is interminable. This is not terminable. Then Ananda says, well, I'll give a simile. And they were in Gosita's park, and he said, and so did you not formally have the desire to come to the park? And he said, yes. And now that you've arrived at the park, isn't that desire settled or allayed now? I said, yes. And did you not have to exert effort or energy to come to the park? I said, yes. And having got to the park, do you still have to exert energy? I said, no. And of course, the similar for the application of mind, and similar for investigation, contemplation. And they said, well, it's in the same way. In our practice, we rely on that desire, we rely on effort, we rely on the application of mind, we rely on the investigation. But having applied and realized the fruits of it, then it is abandoned, it is relinquished. And so then the goal or the purpose is fulfilled, this complete abandonment. And of course the Brahman is then satisfied and gives his approval. But I think it is really important to recognize that we, you can't, you do have to have tools. You do have to have a way of practice, a way of training. We don't just realize peace, liberation, complete understanding through willing it into being, or wishing it into being. It is there is a path of trial and error, and it has to have different factors that support that way of training. So that one, and the word for desire in the bases of power, iddhipadas, or basis of success, is another translation. And again, this is in, whether it's in meditation or whether it's in daily life, that it is applicable. The word that's used is chanda. And when the Buddha is talking about desire being the source of suffering in the Four Noble Truths, the word that the Buddha that is translated as desire also is tanha. And tanha is like thirst, craving, it's desire, absolutely. But tanha is always associated with or entangled with greed, hatred, delusion. Is always going to end up in suffering. Chanda is a bit more nuanced in that it is desire that maybe a better word than desire is motivation or interest, and it can be it tends to be when it's on its own, it tends to have a positive connotation. It can also be linked with things that give it a very explicit positive connotation, so that Dhamma Chanda, desire for the Dhamma. Kusala Chanda, desire for the wholesome, the skillful, the good. It also can be qualified so that desire is focused in unskillful ways, so that the very first hindrance, nivarana, is kama chanda, so sensual desire that is inclining to sensual gratification, and so that gets messy, that gets one entangled, stirs up the mind, so that seeing the limitation or the difficulty. But there's still, as I say, chanda, the sense of desire on its own, is required. One is I'm not remembering it exactly, but the Calvin and Hobbes cartoon with Calvin sitting in kind of slumped in front of the television and sort of zoning out, and the because Hobbes, what you doing? He said, I'm just waiting for the universe to shower me with meaning and bliss. Right. That's probably not going to happen. Is sort of zoning out, sitting in front, and of course it's Calvin, so it's probably Saturday morning cartoons. But there needs to be the rising up of lifting up of a motivation. Where do I want to put my attention? Where do I want to put my energy? What do I want to cultivate? What do I want to relinquish? What do I need? What is worth abandoning? And of course, the Buddha is saying, the purpose of the path is abandoning of desire, so that setting that motivation, seeing the limitation of desire that doesn't have a wholesome object, doesn't have a skillful foundation, and cultivating, applying energy, effort. That is there's other places where the Buddha makes it very explicit that his teaching is a teaching of effort, because there were teachings in the time of the Buddha that there's no point in making effort because the universe is meaningless anyway. I mean, in the time, it wasn't just modern times that cynicism and nihilism are part of the kind of the worldly perspective. Even in the time of the Buddha, that was that was a say a philosophical perspective, and the Buddha said, refute, no, there is effort and the result of effort, and one needs to be able to learn how to apply it, direct it skillfully, and it has results. Um, there are, and that's a fundamental aspect of right view. There are actions and the results of actions, and that's in terms of right view from a worldly perspective, living in the world. That that's a basic foundation. The third base of power, base of success is the citta, and it is a in this sense, it's not say a noun of just okay, I've got a citta, it's okay. It's application of mind, citta being mind in that sense of the mm, both encompassing all the aspects of either emotion, cognition, um, the intellect, all of the elements of the mind, but it needs to be applied. It needs to be directed, and so that that directing of the mind, that like that first verse of the in the Dhammapada, that all things arise from the mind, whether they're skillful or unskillful. What arises first is is the mind. All things are preceded by citta, and it follows us around. The wholesome follows us around. The unwholesome follows us around, and that learning how to direct it skillfully. And the last base of power, base of success, iddhipada, is in Pali is vimamsa, which is investigation, contemplation, but it also has a connotation of reviewing, and looking back on, reflecting again on our experience, and then being able to kind of assess or consider what is skillful, what's unskillful, what's beneficial, what's not beneficial, what's working, what's not working, and certainly in practice we have to be doing that all the time, being willing to reflect, to review, to consider, because it isn't just reading about some technique or getting a transmission from some special teacher who's given you the kind of the right mantra or the right meditation method. No, it's all how we apply it, use it, and learn from it. So that requires that reflection and contemplation. So, and that, of course, that feeds the cycle again. Say appropriately applied reflection, investigation should lead to a say an enhanced motivation, enhanced desire for the Dhamma. And so this is a this is a path that is terminable. It is not interminable. It has an end. It has a point. it gives results, and it takes mindfulness and wisdom to be able to experiment with it, be patient with it, to consider it carefully. But it does have this possibility. Of course, it's so important to keep grounding one's practice in the experiential mode, in the sense of what is the result? Is this peaceful? Is it not peaceful? Am I experiencing well-being, or am I getting all wound up and tight? Am I content? Am I discontent? And we need to be reflecting, need to be considering, and then adjusting our practice and learning from the things we hear, the things we read, our own contemplations and reflections, and then being willing to commit to the practice, commit to the training. It is it's an ongoing exploration. So anyway, those are some thoughts, some reflections for the evening. I'll open it up for questions. Looks like there's one question here already. What are some of the common challenges faced by people who live in the West when they engage in Buddhist practice, and how do they overcome these challenges? What comes to mind is people in the West are so convinced of the efficacy of thinking that if I just thought about this enough, I would understand it. If I just thought about it enough, I would really be able to penetrate. If I think about this enough, somehow it's going to all shift and change. And obviously there needs to be applied thought, but one also has to learn how to put down thought, and return to a place of, say, observation, a still center of observation and reflection. Because even there's this sense of say vimamsa is not. Yes, there is thought, obviously, but it's also learning how to direct attention so that we're considering the causal process of our say our actions, our speech, our moods of the mind, our views that we have, and of course that's another say challenge that people, particularly people in the West, is we're so quick to feel we have to have an opinion about something, have a view. If you're not either expressing it or holding it, holding a view, holding an opinion, expressing it, then there's a certain fear that I'll be perceived as stupid and unintelligent. And so then we commit to all sorts of views and opinions. And why? It is just so complicating, and they tend not to be based on much knowledge and understanding. But yeah, just give me a view, give me an opinion, and of course we suffer accordingly. So that because it's tangled up with the the thinking. Of course, it probably predates Descartes, and that I think, therefore I am. What would I be without my thinking? Opens up a huge cavernous. Okay, there's a continuing question, but it's on this theme. Okay, I can tell the difference between thinking about supper in meditation and thinking about Dhamma topics. Is this deluded? Well, it depends. I mean, one is thinking about supper. I mean, the feeling is if it's. I mean, it's sometimes like just observing, where'd the thought come from, and thinking about supper in meditation is usually because you might be hungry, and then the feeling is preceding the thought, but the thought, of course, is much more enticing than the feeling. So then we forget about the feeling. We don't settle the feeling, and the thought can be, really, we can invest in that thought process, and then it gets tangled, and of course that is delusion, or it could just be. It's kind of, you might not have any kind of feeling of hunger at all, but it's sort of like, oh, 6 o'clock must be time for dinner. It's just out of habit, so it's just is a habitual. What else would I do? So that I mean, there's a certain function of delusion there. So that one is. And you can you can pay attention. That's on again, this is like a feeling is preceding the arising of thought. So then being able to recognize that kind of feeling. Thinking about Dhamma, thinking about Dhamma can be really fruitful. Like thinking about, okay, 4 bases of success, or 4 bases of power. It's an aspect of the say, wings to awakening. The Buddha encouraged it as a contemplation, and as tools, so that thinking about Dhamma is really fruitful, beneficial. We can think, but we have to pay attention to, well, what is the result of the feeling, and what is the kind of motivation behind it. So that's a it's an important aspect of the um, contemplating on Dhamma, is how much are we trying to is the motivation out of like a sincere interest or a sincere desire, or is it this kind of restless proliferation, and even though it's not unwholesome, um, uh, is it useful? Is it beneficial? So that's it's helpful to be considering, and from these different angles, so that where we are able to kind of guide the mind, so that delusion is functioning to a lesser degree, or in a more in a more focused manner, that brings about more well-being, more understanding. So that um, thought is really forms a basis, not just of wisdom, but also of concentration, of samadhi. Um, and that really isn't until the second jhana, that the vitaka vichara, and that's the basis of thought. The vitaka is kind of like a lifting up of a thought in the mind, and vichara is the following of it in terms of looking at it from different angles. And it can be a thought like the four bases of success, or the four bases of power, um, or it can be just the experience of the breath, lifting up the experience of the breath, the attention on the breath. That is vitaka, that directing of the initial thought, and then the subsequent thought, that that attending to the the object of attention, attending to the object of the thought itself, and then that is a is it's an important aspect of how we reflect on the use of thinking, and direct it skillfully, but to recognize that, you say much of our thought is either restless proliferation, or a whole variety of kind of gobbledygook. Yeah, and to say, and it is a middle way, in that sense of everything about the Buddha's practice and way of practice is it's informed by this middle way, and not getting stuck in some kind of ideal of, okay, thinking, not thinking, right or wrong, good, bad, there. There is a middle way, and it relies on this attentiveness to the process. And there's another question I've read, that joy is one of the awakening factors. How is joy cultivated? I think one of the, there's many different ways of cultivation of joy, but I think one of the things to attend to is recognizing that it's part of a say a sequence, and say in terms of the awakening factors, mindfulness is your root awakening factor, and that factor of mindfulness, of awareness, of attention, presence, a clear presence of mind. And then Dhammavicaya, reflection on Dhamma, investigation of Dhamma, investigation of truth, and and then application of effort, of energy, bringing up a quality of, say, energizing the mind. And when it's that energizing the mind with themes of Dhamma and with mindful attentiveness, there's a satisfaction that the mind experiences, and the joy is in usually the translation of the word piti, and it is an active factor in those 7 factors of awakening, and that so that sense of piety, and it's kind of like, let's say, it's joy. It is a sense of maybe exhilaration, a sense of, I mean, it certainly is pleasant. It is a pleasant feeling. It's a pleasant sensation, sense of joy. But it is also, it is energizing, and it tends to bring up a lightness of body, lightness of mind. So that there's these reflections on Dhamma, reflections on truth, and reflections on the happiness of relinquishment, of letting go, the happiness of abandoning. It's like the sutta that I brought up as a reflection of the purpose of the Buddha's teaching is abandoning of desire, and abandoning of desire does not leave one bereft. It leaves one extremely happy, and there's a lot of joy that comes from that letting go, that relinquishing, that abandoning, and the kind of of course the factors of awakening go on to turn to a sense of, say, the next piti, the next quality is pasati, which is as a tranquility, an ease of the body, ease of the mind. That's very easeful, it's tranquil, it's settling. And of course, then it settles into the next factor is samadhi, the settledness of mind, composure of mind. I mean, concentration is usually how it's translated, and I don't like that so much. But it's, yeah, that sense of the mind coming together, it's composing itself, it's settling, and it's based on joy and tranquility, and then the last factor of awakening is equanimity, and 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 it's important to see that this equanimity is not an indifference, or is not even a neutrality of mind. It is equanimous in the sense that it is stable and unshaken. It is not easily move because it is seeing things clearly, and is based in relinquishment. It's based in abandoning. Um, so it's sometimes the like reading different factors, different qualities, different states of being, starting to recognize what are they linked with? What are they associated with within the teachings? And so that piti, of course, joy comes up in many places, and the and in particular in those awakening factors, um, they're kind of it's you say your your preceding one is effort and energy, and then virya, and then the succeeding one is passadia, tranquility, ease of body, ease of mind. So that joy, then you got a context for joy, and of course you fill that out with the whole of those factors, and then it's okay. This is it's one is performing a function, and two, it is a state that is um, predicated on mindfulness, on reflection, on Dhamma, applying effort. But it's also feeding and supporting aspects of ease and composure and stability of heart. So there's these the Buddha's teachings and the various expressions of the teachings. It's helpful to see, how they fit together. What are they linked with? And that gives a good sense of the nature of the Buddha's teaching. So some thoughts on that. It looks like we are through the questions. Yeah, I mean that is that context, and then with and I think with all of all of these aspects of the foundation are helpful to attend to. So I think we'll wrap it up for the evening. Delightful to spend time with you all, and announcements. Papa coming up 18th, 19th. There's probably going to be if there isn't already, an announcement coming out, just that um, we will be having the Papa. Of course, it's going to be live streamed. If anybody has any uh, hesitation of joining personally, and there's many good reasons to have, but it's many people are looking forward to it, and we will try to be as responsible as possible. And one of the things that we will be part of the announcement is that if one of the ways to simplify the Papa and create a place where a space where we can be keeping a certain a distancing is if people want to bring their own food, and rather than the say like the say the potluck buffet table being a place of, and we'll have a kind of a protocols around receiving food, but also if people want to have their own food where you can just go off and be off to the side during that time, then that is certainly a way of doing that, and it might be comfortable for yourself, and it would create a certain simplifying of the whole process on the day. So that is announcement for the Papa, and I think that's it. We'll look forward to seeing um, anybody who shows up on Friday morning. So take care, everyone.